All right, so get ready, because today we are going deep, really deep, into the thought of Fukazawa Yukichi.
Oh, a fascinating, fascinating guy.
Yeah, and to help us unpack his ideas, we've got excerpts from his essay, The Purpose of Education.
Great essay.
It is. And we've also got, thankfully, some modern-day commentary to kind of, help bridge the gap between his time and ours.
Yeah, it's well over a century ago that he was writing, but man, his ideas about education, about peace, they really do feel custom made for the world we're living in right now.
I know, it's really cool. And that's why I'm so excited about this deep dive, because, peace is one of those words. Like, when you hear peace, what do you think of?
Well, I mean, usually the first thing that pops to mind is like the absence of war, no conflict.
Exactly right. And Yukichi, he kind of takes it way, way beyond that superficial level.
Yeah.
He's talking about peace, or as he calls it, tranquility. And he's saying it's a deeply fulfilling state of being for individuals and as a whole for society.
Right, and that's the important distinction here, isn't it? Because I think in Yukichi's time, when people talked about peace, a lot of times they really were thinking about, external harmony, like no war. Things are good on a surface level.
Right.
But tranquility gets at something deeper, right? It's internal, this sense of individual contentment, this well-being.
Yeah.
And he's arguing you can't really have one without the other.
Right, yeah, it's two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, they're completely interconnected.
So it's not just about stopping wars.
Right.
It's about building a world where people can thrive. And not just survive, thrive as individuals, as members of a community.
Yeah.
And he was really convinced that education was the key.
Absolutely.
The key to unlocking that kind of peace. And he makes this really, I think it's really cool, this argument, where he connects the pursuit of peace to our needs, human needs and aspirations.
Right.
And how those change. And one of the analogies, I think this is such a cool analogy, he uses the analogy of a simple palace in ancient China.
Okay, yeah.
Which back then, in ancient China, that was like the peak of luxury.
Oh, right, absolutely.
But today, with all our modern conveniences, think about it, that palace would feel pretty lacking.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Right. You wouldn't want to live there.
No. I mean, can you imagine? No indoor plumbing.
I know.
No air conditioning. I mean, even something as simple as like, next day delivery, forget about it.
Yeah.
Like our standards, what we even consider like a comfortable life, they've gone through the roof.
Yeah.
And Yukichi's point is that our idea of peace evolves in the same way.
It's so true.
Right.
Yeah.
What folks back then thought of as peaceful might feel totally insufficient to us now.
Right, exactly.
It's like we wouldn't be satisfied with that ancient Chinese palace. We want more. We're always reaching for a deeper, more, fulfilling kind of peace.
Yeah, and he has this other analogy, which I think is brilliant. And he compares our changing understanding of peace to, get this, a person's developing taste for tobacco.
Okay. I'm interested.
So, like, think about it. Someone who starts off with, like, cheap, rough tobacco.
Right.
But as they try, like, finer blends, their palate gets more refined. And then they can't go back to what they used to enjoy because their definition of enjoyable has completely changed.
It's true. That first cigarette I ever had was disgusting.
Right.
Never went back.
Yeah.
So he's saying as we grow intellectually, emotionally, maybe even spiritually, what we once thought was peaceful might start to feel lacking. Like we crave something more nuanced, more complete.
Right. And so, I thinking about that in today's world, we might think, okay, we've achieved peace.
Right.
In many ways, but what are we missing? Like, what blind spots might we have? What are future generations going to think we were lacking?
Right, yeah. What are they going to look back on and say, man, they really didn't have it figured out?
Yeah, exactly. What needs and aspirations are going to shape their pursuit of peace? It's like, are we living in that ancient Chinese palace? Completely oblivious
Totally.
to what future generations are going to consider essential.
That's a great point.
Yeah. So our idea of peace, it's constantly changing.
Right.
And it's tied to our needs, our aspirations, always evolving.
Yeah.
But how does education fit into all of this? Because Yukichi was a huge proponent of education. But he was just talking about, rote memorization, learning facts and figures.
No, absolutely not. He believed that true education, it had to develop both our physical and mental capacities.
Right.
And he actually made this really fascinating distinction, I think, between physical ease and mental delight.
So it's not just about having, a comfortable life, having your material needs met.
Right, exactly.
It's deeper.
He was basically saying, while material comfort is important, of course, you got to have the basics.
Right.
It's only one piece of the puzzle. True fulfillment, true tranquility, it comes from mental delight.
Right.
The kind of delight that education can cultivate. He believed that education could help us develop our minds, our ability to think critically, to appreciate beauty, knowledge.
Yeah.
All the things that bring lasting satisfaction.
It's like you can have all the money,
Yeah.
the biggest house, the fanciest car.
Right.
But if you're not intellectually stimulated, if you're not growing as a person,
Yeah.
there's still this emptiness,
There's a void.
a void.
Yeah. And he thought education could fill that void. Unlock a deeper, more meaningful peace.
Yeah.
One that goes way beyond just, material comfort.
Yeah. And he wasn't just talking about this theoretically. He actually pointed to real-world examples, like community service,
Yes.
philanthropy, things like that.
He was a big believer in empathy, altruism. He saw how these even seemingly selfless actions could bring so much personal satisfaction.
Right. It's like that saying, it is in giving that we receive.
Exactly. By contributing to the well-being of others, we actually boost our own sense of peace.
Right.
We tap into that mental delight he was talking about.
Right. So education isn't just about personal gain. It's about cultivating that sense of connection, of understanding that our well-being is tied to the well-being of others.
Yeah, it's about seeing that interconnectedness.
Yeah. And that's where things get really interesting, because Yukichi, he doesn't just talk about, personal growth.
Right.
He actually critiques societal structures that might appear peaceful, but are actually holding back true peace. And the example he uses, it's pretty bold. He goes right after Western nations colonizing what they called uncivilized lands.
Right, yeah, he was deeply critical of that.
And he's saying, look, you're claiming to bring peace and order, but your actions are often driven by self-interest.
Right, yeah. He saw how a lot of it was about power, about greed for resources.
Yeah.
He saw right through it.
He didn't mince words, did he?
No, he did not.
He actually compared these nations to common thieves, just on a grander scale.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was saying you're putting your comfort and your wealth above the needs of others. And ultimately, that undermines true peace.
Yeah, it's a powerful critique.
It is.
It forces us to look beyond just the surface level, to question the systems, the structures that shape our world.
Yeah, to ask ourselves, are we really pursuing peace in all aspects of our lives? Or are we, in some ways, putting our own comfort, ahead of the well-being of others?
Yeah, I think that's a question we all need to ask ourselves.
It's a tough one.
It is.
But it's important.
Yeah, it really is a call to action, isn't it?
It is.
To look at not only our individual choices, but the whole systems that we're all part of. Are there ways that our society, maybe even like our economic structures, are preventing true peace, even if they seem peaceful on the surface?
And that brings us to, I think, another really interesting part of Yukichi's thought is he didn't see peace as this destination.
Right.
Like you get there and you've arrived.
Yeah.
He saw it more as this dynamic process.
Yeah.
A constant striving for balance between individual fulfillment and this societal harmony.
It makes sense. And he acknowledged that sometimes those two things,
Please.
personal happiness and the greater good, they can clash a little bit.
Yeah, because we're all individuals.
Right.
We have our own desires and needs.
For sure.
But we're also part of this bigger community.
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's tricky, right?
Yeah, those needs definitely bump up against each other sometimes.
Yeah. And he even points to examples like thieves, criminals, not condoning their actions, obviously.
Right.
But to illustrate this point,
Yeah.
even those actions, harmful as they are often driven by a desire for peace.
Yeah. Like a very self-centered piece.
Yeah, for themselves, right.
Exactly.
Like some form of security.
Yeah, he's not saying crime is okay, but he's trying to understand the motivation.
Yeah, what's driving these destructive acts.
Right, what are the unmet needs?
Yeah.
And he argued that a lot of that that self-centeredness, that focus on immediate gratification,
Yeah.
it often comes from limited understanding, a lack of education.
And not just formal schooling when he says education.
Right.
It's broader.
He's talking about moral and social education.
Yeah.
That helps us see past our own little bubble.
Right. Yeah. To see that bigger picture.
Yeah, and he believed that as we learn, as we grow, our capacity for empathy, it expands. Our understanding deepens.
Yeah.
And our idea of peace evolves to include others.
Yeah, he has this phrase, I love it. He talks about the development of the working faculty of human life. And it's like as we develop our skills, our knowledge, our ability to contribute to the world in meaningful ways,
Yep.
our understanding of peace changes along with it.
I love that. He believed that true peace, true tranquility, it comes from engaging with the world, from using our gifts to make a positive impact,
Yeah.
to create something of value, not just for ourselves, but for others.
And it doesn't have to be, starting some global movement or being a superhero.
Right.
It could be just showing up for your family, contributing to your community.
Yeah, doing your work with excellence, with
Yeah.
integrity.
Yeah, he saw it as a gradual process, this journey of individual and collective evolution.
Right, like the development of a child.
Yeah.
A child starts out with very basic needs and desires,
Right.
but as they mature, they understand the world better.
Yeah.
Their capacity for empathy grows.
Right.
They develop a sense of responsibility.
And in a way, we're all on that path, right?
I think so.
Towards a deeper understanding of peace.
Yeah.
And education is like that compass that helps us through all those complexities along the way.
Yeah, the twists and turns.
Exactly. And it never really ends, right?
I don't think so.
As we change, our understanding of peace changes with us.
Right, what might have seemed like the ultimate peace yesterday
Yeah.
might feel incomplete tomorrow.
Yeah, and that leads to another really key part of Yukichi's thinking. He wasn't just focused on his own time.
Right.
He was looking ahead, trying to imagine what a truly peaceful future could be.
Yeah.
And he was convinced that education was how we get there. He felt this deep responsibility, not just to his generation,
Right.
but to future generations.
To lay the groundwork.
Yeah, to cultivate those minds and hearts that could actually create a more peaceful and just world.
Yeah, it's like he was saying, we're not just passing on land or possessions. We're passing on ideas, values, a vision for something better.
And that vision, man, it feels so relevant today.
Oh, absolutely.
With all the challenges that we're facing, climate change, social unrest, political polarization.
Right, all these things are impacting our peace.
They're impacting our well-being.
Yeah, our sense of security.
Yeah, and so if education really is the key to this higher form of peace,
Right.
it makes you wonder, okay, what kind of education are we talking about?
Yeah. What are the specifics?
What values, what skills, what knowledge should we be focused on?
Not just for ourselves, but for, the generations that come after us.
It's a big question, right?
It is.
And it's one that Yukichi really grappled with in his writing.
Yeah.
He didn't believe that education should just be about, gathering knowledge just for the sake of it.
Right.
It had to be about developing character, about learning how to think critically,
Yeah.
to act ethically, to contribute to the well-being of others.
He saw education as this holistic thing, encompassing intellectual, moral, social, even physical development.
Yeah.
For him, a truly educated person was someone who could navigate all the ups and downs of life
Yeah.
with wisdom, with compassion, with a strong sense of justice.
Yeah, and he wasn't just talking about academics and ivory towers. He was a big proponent of what he called practical learning. So education that was directly connected to the problems of the time.
Yeah.
That actually gave people the tools to make a positive impact on the world.
He saw education as this incredibly powerful force for social progress,
Yeah.
for lifting people up, for creating a more just and equitable society. And it's really remarkable how his ideas written so long ago still resonate so strongly with what we're dealing with today.
It's like he could see into the future.
Yeah, he had this amazing ability to look beyond the horizon,
Yeah.
to anticipate the challenges, the opportunities that would shape the future.
And that's really the mark of a great thinker, right?
I think so.
They offer these insights that go beyond time and place, that help us make sense of our own world,
Yeah.
and they can guide us towards something better.
So as we think about Yukichi's vision, education as the path to peace, I think it begs the question, what kind of education do we need
Yeah.
to cultivate this higher form of peace? both within ourselves and in the world around us.
What values and skills should we be focusing on?
Yeah.
And how can we create learning environments that nurture not just intellectual growth,
Right.
but empathy, compassion, a real commitment to justice?
These are important questions.
Really important.
And they bring us back to the heart of Yukichi's message, the pursuit of true peace. It's a journey.
Yeah.
It's about individual growth, and it's about societal evolution.
It's a journey that requires not just knowledge, but wisdom. Not just power, but compassion.
Yeah.
And not just self-interest,
Right.
but a deep commitment to the well-being of everyone.
It's a beautiful vision. It really is a beautiful vision, isn't it?
It is. But Yukichi didn't, he didn't pretend everything was rosy.
Right.
He knew there would always be obstacles on the road to peace.
Yeah. Both inside us and out in the world.
Yeah. He understood that human nature, it's not always pretty.
We can be selfish.
Yeah.
We can be driven by fear, by greed.
Yeah.
Power can easily be misused.
Right. And he didn't shy away from those less flattering parts of who we are.
No, he didn't.
And he also realized that getting to true peace, it's not just about changing individual hearts and minds.
Right. Yeah.
We have to change the systems, the structures that keep injustice going,
For sure.
that fuel inequality.
Yeah, he pointed to that example of nations
Right.
competing for power and resources, often at the expense of others.
Yeah, even while they're saying they're promoting peace.
Right.
And he saw the hypocrisy there,
Oh, yeah.
and he called it out.
He was basically saying, good intentions aren't enough.
Right.
You got to look critically at the systems that we've built. Ask the tough questions.
Yeah.
Who benefits from this? Who's being left out? Who's
Yeah.
being exploited?
Yeah.
And how do we create systems that are actually fair for everyone?
It's like he's giving us a blueprint,
I think so.
not just for personal change, but for changing society too.
Yeah.
And he's reminding us that true peace, it's a constant struggle. It's a process of examining our own biases.
Yeah, challenging the status quo.
Right, and working towards a world that's more just.
And more harmonious.
Yeah, and he believed that education, that was the most powerful tool we have to give people the strength to engage in that struggle.
To develop those critical thinking skills.
Right.
To foster empathy and compassion.
Yeah.
To empower people to actually be the change.
So it's not just about learning facts or skills.
Right.
It's about developing our moral compass.
Yeah, learning to understand different perspectives.
Right.
Being committed to a world where everyone can thrive.
It's about a sense of responsibility,
Yeah.
not just for ourselves, but for
For
others,
the future.
for the planet.
For that fabric of peace that holds everything together.
Yukichi's vision. It's challenging,
It is.
but it's also incredibly inspiring.
It is.
He's calling on us to be lifelong learners, to question our assumptions.
To stay curious.
Yeah, to embrace all that complexity.
Yeah.
And to never stop working for a world that's more peaceful and more just.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Fukuzawa Yukichi's The Purpose of Education, I'm left with this question. If education really is the key to achieving this higher form of peace, what kind of education do we need? What values, what skills should we be prioritizing, not just for ourselves, but for the generations that come after us?
It's a powerful question for all of us to think about. What does peace mean to you? How can you help create a more peaceful world? Even in small ways. Maybe it's through your own personal growth or supporting education that promotes empathy and understanding, or even just engaging in thoughtful conversations about these issues with other people. Whatever you do, remember Yukichi's wisdom, the pursuit of true peace. It's a lifelong journey. It's a constant effort to find harmony within ourselves and with the world around us.
And it's a journey worth taking.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the brilliant mind of Fukuzawa Yukichi. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep striving for that deeper, more fulfilling peace that I think we all long for.